went to the oldest and finest journalism school in the world. That being said, you better take a heck of a lot of classes other than journalism. Take math. I felt that after those things, there was really a restraint on that. They didn't want that. They felt they were uncomfortable. The people who owned the newspaper were uncomfortable with that sort of journalism. And I felt it, and we had stories that needed to be told. Time to make the donuts. Here's our newspaper coming out at, you know, whatever in the morning or whatever in the late morning, early afternoon, depending on the type of publication it is. I mean, they're the ones who are dying. It really was. You know, after I got fired, my wife and I talked. It's like, do I want to go do news? Do I want to go be a TV news director somewhere else? Do we want to uproot the family? And I had a couple of, chances and talked to a couple people about it. But then it didn't happen. And then, then when I won my unemployment decision at an unemployment spat with the company, and I won. They said, okay, we went to the state and had a hearing and everything, and I won my unemployment. So then I had two options. Do I go sue my old employer, or do I start something new? And I'd been talking to some people about just how poor, web news in Quincy is just basically a regurgitation of what's on TV. It's a regurgitation of what's in the newspaper. How can we use that to market the mothership? And, because they add all this web stuff and they don't have any people to support it. And I just said, if somebody just had an independent web product in Quincy, it would go over really well. This has a lot more freedom to it, and I don't have to go through to get a certain story on or to do something. I don't have to jump through 18 hoops. I'm smart enough to know when I need an attorney to look at a story. I mean, we have libel insurance. We're protected and we do all that. I mean, that was like the first thing I said. It's like, we just can't go flying by the seat of our pants. But as opposed to having, every third story somebody thinks a lawyer needs to look at it. I think I've had our corporate attorney look at, in a year, maybe a handful, 4 or 5 stories maybe. I want interaction. I don't want to stifle the debate. I think that's been the problem in this community and other communities for too long, is the debate gets stifled. Whether whoever the local powers that be decide somebody is a whack job, well, that person doesn't deserve a say. Well, they might not be. I mean, everybody deserves a say, and it's up to you, and it's up to you to determine if you think that guy is a whack job, or you think the newspaper's off, or you think I'm off. I mean, I think the debate should be there. I think the conversation needs to be had. What I'm doing is not about stifling the conversation. What I'm doing is about stimulating the conversation.
Spoke with one of your professors at MU, Mr. Collins.
I'm like, oh gosh, which one did you talk to? Yes.
He had nothing but good things to say about you. But one of the interesting points that he came up with was how you're sort of taking the traditional model and kind of flipping it around a little bit. In other words, like you just said, like most websites are regurgitation of what's in print or what's on TV. You're sort of doing the opposite, where you're the website and you're feeding radio stations, and if I'm not mistaken, to a TV station or two.
No, well, I mean, if one of the local TV stations just steals a story off the website, then right. Yeah, but that's been going on, since the beginning of competitive media. We're developing some other side products to help generate revenue that, Roger may strangle me this afternoon, that will not be as pure as quincynews.org. We're trying to develop a style section, a style page, quincystyle.org, which will be very advertorial, which will have people who have businesses. I mean, style, we're talking about home decor, home building, all that kind of real estate, all that. I mean, it's going to, we're going to have sponsors do that, and sponsors who take part in providing content. I mean, and we're just going to do that because we want to grow. And doing the banner advertising that we're doing on the site is going to have a ceiling at some point. It's hard, and it's in a town like this. I mean, some people champion it, but you don't make a lot of friends. But I mean, that's not why I got into news in the first place, anyway. I mean, I know too many people who, went into TV so they could be on TV, and it was never my intent. I mean, yeah, I was in sports once upon a time and wanted to be Jack Buck like everybody else, but around here. But then, as I grew up and got more into news, I realized what mattered. I mean, being the guy who built this, and I mean, the investors have been very understanding, and we're making money. I mean, we just build out, and our even with hiring the new employee, I think right now the revenues and expenses are tight right there. But she's going to add more business, and she's already picked up 4 or 5 new advertisers in a few weeks she's been here, so that's been great. So that's good. She's gonna, good salespeople pay for themselves and then some. Because I mean, I can't be everywhere. I mean, we're getting to a point. We've hired an ad sales representative. We want to get to a point where we can hire a second content person, but we're not there yet. So the radio station has 3.5 full-time news people, which is a lot more than I had when I was there. And so if I can't cover a meeting, they'll cover a meeting for me. Or if they can't cover a meeting, I'll cover a meeting for them. So we have a great working relationship. We did a thing where our initial marketing push was with them. We did advertising with them on the AM talk station. And then we bought some billboard advertising just to kind of get the word out. And again, we've had a great relationship with WTAD. I think the internet experience is so much more interactive. It's so much more 3D than the newspaper experience. The newspaper experience, you read it, okay, fine, whatever. The internet experience, you're reading a story. On my news stories, you can comment on the stories. That's another big difference is they allow no comments on their news stories. And the TV stations, I guess they allow comments, but I see very few. I mean, and I've had stories, on the school board issue, I've had stories that have had 100+ comments. Just how you communicate, whether it's a novel, whether it's a cell phone, whether it's a computer, whether it's TV. Media is a big bowl. And I'm one of the participants. I'm one of the ways people get information these days. The 2,000 people a day who come to the site or whatever. So it's actually been more this week, which has been a good thing. So. But there's stress in the corporate level. I mean, when you're sitting there and they say you need to go lay somebody off. I don't want to have to do that. It's which the local companies had to do, which so many media companies have had to do. There's this you got shareholders to please. You got there's just there's different kinds of pressure. There's pressure in every. Anything could happen any day, and the real pressure is raising children and trying to figure out, making them good citizens, getting them in a good college, making sure they have good grades. That's the pressure. I just want my kids to grow up and be, decent human beings. Work's work. Family and job's more. Family's far more important. That was something I learned along the way is, even though this does take a lot of time, it's spending better time and spending more quality time with your family, making that time count. Like taking my daughter to see Harry Potter.